Okay, it's day 158, and this is part two. And this discussion here of this Majestic 12, the reason why I wanted to kind of bring that forward was just to kind of show how tightly Washington, D.C. is involved in this R&D market. And they're even going back to the original days of the first Majestic 12, 1947, the technology was always a key part of it. So cryptography, nuclear weapons, nuclear testing, a lot of we were down at Indian Head where Perry engaged the British, and that is now a naval weapons testing area. So all the places we were walking yesterday, not only the place where the hammer's buried, we not only walked in Fort Washington where the hammer's buried, we were able to drive around a little bit and see actually these other places where this technology was actually tested and so forth. So a lot of this testing happens in Anacostia. You've been there many times before in this story. That's where we speculated the Awans worked, either that in Anacostia at DHS or just a little bit up the across the river at the Navy Yard. And a lot of people noticed how much the Awan story mirrored the story of the Hammer. The Hammer started in 2004 through now. The Awan started in 2004 through now. And we noticed that the government just doesn't want to shut this down. It just like it wants to keep its hammer and it wants to keep it spiring. Nothing has really changed. The 123 drop box probably still is in effect. 123 drop box probably being about nuclear discussions. Again, there's a fascination with just the deep state here, I guess, if you want to call it, or SES, wanting to manage all the conversations in the Congress with the Awans, at least in the House. Now, other people speculated, well, is that what the cozy bears are in the House and the fancy bears are managing the Senate? Because then you have both sides of the transaction. You have the drug side of the transaction in the House, and then you have the arms side of the transaction in the Senate. We don't know yet. We do know that there is somebody called the fancy bears, the Russians. We do know there is somebody called the cozy bears. We don't know if that's the Awans yet or not. So anyway, it all kind of comes together here in this kind of just this Andy McCabe's picture here I'll use to just kind of like the deep state and this SES group, this FBI SES group. Now, what we just recently found out is Mateen, the guy we've talked about before, the father of the G4S guy, was involved in this drug trade for 11 years to Pakistan. That gives him color of law. I wonder if he ever went through AB Auto Imports in Orlando. We'll see. But the key here being that the FBI, DEA have run a color of law drug operation for at least 11 years. Now, I say there was somebody before Mateen going all the way back to 2001 at the start of the Afghan war, but probably also before the Afghan war as well. But Mateen is just the last guy for the last 11 years to run the drug operations into Florida. So we know one place. I think you're also going to see San Diego with the other shooter in San Bernardino being the other port of entry for all the drugs from Pakistan. So that's kind of where we're at. Is we're slowly unwinding this Awan Contra. This is the House is the drug side of the transaction, again under color of law. The Senate side's probably going to be the fancy bears, again different representatives, different sharding of the transactions through SES members. On the House side. We'll see what actually happens. I believe the ones are going to be sharded through the House here with SES for various departments, DoD appointments to different agencies like NGA. We'll see if the fancy bears in the Senate is the same side. But we're gradually putting together the puzzle for Awan Contra here. We've got a lot of information on the House side. Now we probably need to take our hammer to the Russians on the that are being expelled today for spying on the Senate side.